I'm Carrie Adams, and you're listening to Carrie's Connoisseurs, coming to you from Solid Gold Podcasts. Here we talk to the movers and shakers, the drinkers, the dreamers, and all the people who make it happen in the liquor and luxury industries from around the world. Hello everybody, and welcome to Carrie's Connoisseurs for another interesting edition where today I'm chatting to Martin Smith of Paserene. He is on Riverside. We've done this before, so it should be okay. You've all got to know me now with my technical challenges and my inabilities. But Martin, hi, welcome to Carrie's Connoisseurs. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks, Carrie, and thanks, and hang on, thank you, and and welcome to the listeners.
Yes. Well, aside from being interesting, gorgeous, focused, successful, making some of the best wine in the country, you just deserve to be celebrated, because I tasted some wine with Stephanie, who we'll also talk about a little bit later, who belongs to you, and your wine just gets better and better and better and better. I'm going to start off with Martin the man. Martin, born in Ashton, which is a tiny little town, really.
Yeah.
I think you're a second or third generation winemaker, and you're one of those lucky people who knew from a very early age exactly what you wanted to be, and that was a winemaker. And it's very evident because you committed and devoted and in love with your trade. I'm going to keep quiet, and you're going to tell us from Ashton to Paserene. Quick, Pracy, tell us.
Okay, so at the time when at my birth, my dad was the winemaker at Ashton Co-op. So my dad met my mum on my grandfather's farm in Tulbach, not in Tulbach, in Paul. So it's right next to Laborie. So my dad did his viticultural practical there, and then he met my mother, and they decided to tie the knot. At the time, then my grandfather decided, okay, he wants to retire, and he asked my dad, do you want to take over the farm? And at the time, then it was there was some table grapes on the farm and some wine grapes, but they were pretty tired, and my dad didn't want to continue. So my grandfather sold the farm, and we moved to Ashton, and my father was the grand winemaker there for a couple of years, and then when we were I think 5 days or so after my birth, he actually took a job where he decided that he wants to bottle wine. So he started the Breede River Bottling Company in Worcester, and we relocated there. And
it was probably quite a commercially sound decision, because we all know that you make wine for love, not for money, don't you?
Yeah, correct. So, but yeah, so I don't know, if I can whisper in my father's ear at that time, it would have probably had a different result, but he was steadfast on not continuing the farm, and then moved to Worcester. I spent my primary school and high school in Worcester, and I decided then right after high school that I wanted to go to Portugal, and I worked with Joaquin Sa at the time. He was there working in the mailroom. And then we, So I did test on corks. I was in the lab, and we tested champagne corks. So I remember my job was, you take a cork, you put it into this device, and it tears it apart, and then I have to test the bar. At what
it sounds like what my Scotty dog does to the corks when I take them out of the bottles. He tears them apart as well. From Portugal, how long did you stay in Portugal for?
1 year. Yeah, 1 year. So it was a fantastic time. It was hard because it was at that time not a lot of Portuguese people spoke English. So it's difficult to get understood there, but it was good. So then I returned to South Africa, and then started at Elsenburg, which I finished my diploma in winemaking and in viticulture as well. So after that, I did my practical with Jan Boland Pitsier, and he found me a job actually in Napa. So I wanted to spread my wings a little bit, and I found a job at a winery called Paserene Winery. So it's a American Italian kind of setup. So
It's
but mostly
gorgeous.
focused on cabs and Chardonnay. Yeah.
Such a nice place to be. And I was going to say, is that where you fell in love with Cabernet? Because whenever I hear the name Martin Smith, I sort of immediately I close my eyes and I think of Cabernet.
I cut my teeth on Cabernet, so it's my varietal. Like it's just the thing that I really enjoy making, and it's also a grape that I understand. So I know exactly what I need to do, and it's just like it's a safe ground for me to push wherever I want to with the wine.
I know it's so nice when you get on a little bit in your career and you find out who your soulmate is in the vineyard, and then you just feel comfy and easy, and it works, and you can taste it in the bottle. So you came back. How long were you in Napa for?
10 years. So
10 years.
Yeah. So 5 years at Casentino Winery, and then I came back for a little bit, and I did a harvest at Jordan. So it was me and Donnie Statler and Lucinda Haynes and Tim from Cabriere. And so we ran the harvest at that time. And then I went back just after or during 2005. And then I took a job with LVMH, or Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, and the winemaker for them for another 5 years. So that was a fantastic learning school, because it's to work with such vast budgets and with such a massive corporate company. I
know anything's possible, hey?
Yeah, so like anything, and it's cool. Like the winemaker before me, he would tell me like they would do like wine tastings at special events, and then they would have like Charlize Theron or whoever was the poster girl for LVMH to attend the tasting with him. So it's incredible.
So that's why you went. Let's just be honest. You went there, you wanted poster girls in the tasting room. I can hear that you in your cellar. I'm just going to tell everybody, Martin's in his cellar at the moment. I can hear pumps and machines and flows and echoes, whatever. So if we can't hear you nicely, I'm going to say, Martin, switch off this hose pipe and speak to me again. But we're moving on from poster girls. And you spent another 5 years with LVMH, did you?
Yeah, so till 2010. And then I felt like, okay, so now I have to make a decision. Am I going to live in the States, or am I going to come back home? And I decided that I'm going to return to South Africa. And
so you didn't marry a poster girl?
No. So I didn't know what.
Or not an American one, anyway.
Yeah. So I returned. Like I knew Phil Fries from Villafonte, because I attended a lot of things at Davis, where he was a guy that I think he was like almost like in a professorial role there.
Yes.
So
yeah.
And then I asked him, like, listen, I'm planning to return to South Africa. Do you have anything available? And then he said, not at the time. But then 2 months after that, he phoned me. And he asked, okay, so as it would have it, our winemaker, Bernard Leroux, is leaving. And so Bernard left for Zorfleet. And then I had 5 1-hour Skype interviews with Zelma Long.
She's gorgeous.
How incredibly detail-orientated she is. And these interviews were all taking place all at like, I think 12 o'clock at night in my office.
Yes.
Yeah, so everything was...
She's such a gorgeous lady, though, Martin. She's a lovely woman, so she wouldn't have been judgmental or horrible. Zelma and Phil are 2 of my favorite people in the world, actually. They're just such a treat. And they've been so additive on an international wine platform. You know, they're brilliant. So she obviously decided that you were clever enough to join Villafonte.
Yes, well, I hope so. Like, I remember they gave me the job, I was still like racking barrels in Napa on the Friday, and I flew over, and on Monday we started harvesting in at Belafonte. So there was like
That was
zero,
quick.
yeah, 3 days, and everything relocated. Mike Ratcliffe put me up in a house on Warwick, and yeah, and then my road with Belafonte started there. So
And what
yeah, I
a
did.
road, what a road it was. I mean, Villafonte, you and Zelma and Phil and Mike catapulted Villafonte from zero to hero in a very short space of time. And that had a huge amount to do with the wine you were making.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so it was a fantastic time. Mike and Zelma and Phil, they're fantastic people. So we got along really well. And then in 2016, I told them, okay, now I'm ready to start my own, or take my own thing, which was Paserene at the time, to the next level. So back in 2013, I already told them that, listen, I want to make my own wine, and they were kind enough to grant me that. So they told me, like, okay, you can. You're not allowed to use any of our varietals that goes into the series M or C, but you can. But and you're not allowed to make more than 10 barrels. So that was the rules. So
Okay.
I'm
Fair
bullheaded.
enough.
So I decided, okay, I would still want to make a Bordeaux wine because that is my thing. But I can't use Cab, I can't use Merlot, I can't use Franc or Malbec. So I
So that
made
makes a Bordeaux blend a little bit tricky.
yeah. So but luckily I had a little bit of extra knowledge in my seed. So I found out that there's some Carmenere planted in South Africa. So that was planted in a town called Philadelphia. I think Peter Dirk or somebody lives there. It's on the west
No, but you
on the
know
west
what?
coast.
I remember it's on the West Coast, and I remember when I first came back to South Africa, I started working in this wine industry. There was Carignan, and it was being made and found and bottled by a man called Alex Camera, and from a farm called
Okay.
Welgegrond.
All
Remember
right.
that?
Huh.
And to the best of my knowledge, that was the only Carignan vineyard that was actually operating at the time. Listen, that was before Jesus was born. I'm a lot older than you,
Yeah.
so maybe you've forgotten about that. But that was the only Carignan that was available at the time.
Okay. So yeah. So this was yeah. So like I'm making some Carignan as well, but it's for another for it's just for Paserene as well. But the Carmenere that I'm talking about was it was on a farm called Waterkloof on the N7, and so so now I have Carmenere in the pocket. So now I just need another varietal. So I got that from actually from Simon Barlow, and it was Petit Verdot that was grown on the most perfect slope. And I think it was me and Jeremy Walker that bought some Petit Verdot from him that year, and I made the wine, and that was the first Paserene marathon ever made in 2013. And
So what was the blend ultimately? Carmenere and Petit Verdot.
it was a Carmenere and Petit Verdot, yeah. But it's and then I wanted to bottle and sell the wine, but Tavis told me you can't do it because the Carmenere is still going through its like legal phases, and then like you still have to propagate, and it needs to be all the red tape needed to be clear. So I lied, and I said it's only Petit Verdot that was on the wine. Yeah.
You're not
So
supposed to publicly admit to lying. Those are deep, dark secrets you keep to yourself.
yeah, you kind of have to be honest because I have a very bad memory. So it's like, so yeah, so it's like I still have 80 bottles of that wine. So that's about 10 years ago, like already. Huh? So
Is it still drinking? Does it still taste nice?
it's fantastic. It's really, really, really great.
Okay, so next time you come to Johannesburg, I want a bottle of that at my house.
That's a deal.
You and me
That's a
going to
deal.
share that. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
fantastic. We'll do it.
So you made this blend out of two very unlikely bed partners, and it tasted blooming delicious. Everything that's come from Paserene really has tasted gorgeous, as long as my memory serves me. So you left Villafonte in 2015, did you say?
No, in 2016. So I told Zelma, in the harvest of 2016, that I'm gonna go on my own in 2017. So I gave them a 12-month notice, and then they employed one of my interns, Chris de Vries, to take over my role. So so 2017 I was all by myself. I met a man who was my business partner, and his name is Ndabe Mareda. So
I was about to say, this is where we have to start speaking about Ndaba, because he's such an unsung hero of Paserene, really. He keeps quiet. He flies under the radar. He sounds like every person's dream partner. I mean, he comes to the party with support and love and money and all kinds of stuff, and he doesn't interfere with you. How did you manage to find him?
Well, he likes to drink Villafonte, so that's how he came about. So he gave me a call and said, "Listen, I want to invest into an artist," where he said, like me. So I said, "Okay, fine. I am going on my own, and I think we can definitely work together." So then he already owned the farm in Franschhoek. So it was called Lamot. Not Lamot, Marlod. So Marlod. And it was owned by a Swedish gentleman, and then he bought it from him, I think, back in 2012. So that became the hub of Paserene. So it's what I didn't say is, like, I also make a Chardonnay that's from Elgin. So that was also a wine that I made started making in 2013. So we decided, okay, so we're gonna work out an area where Paserene will live in, and then this is the 3 territories. So it's Stolbach, and then Franschhoek, and then Elgin. So Stolbach came to me via Andrea Molyneux. So like I asked her I'm looking for a vineyard to start working with, and then she told me about this Syrah vineyard that was farmed and planted by Kali Low in Stolbach, and it's a farm right underneath Stolbach Mountain Vineyard. And I think there was a time when Andrea and Chris and Kali Low were both living on Stolbach Mountain Vineyards and all that. So this farm was owned by an older guy. He worked for De Beers. He was a diamond guy, and his name is Tony Bond. And he owned a small little 30-hectare farm that was planted half with olives and the other half was Syrah. And then there was some cab on there, and then on that farm there's some Carignan that I still work with till today. And
there's some fantastic Shiraz that comes out of Tilbach. If you look at, I don't know if Dierwold's still at Sarensburg, but Dierwold used to turn those Shiraz grapes in Tilbach into absolutely beautiful wine. And who's the other one? Neville from Rakes. Also lovely Shiraz. It seems that area is just lends itself to Syrah.
Yeah. So Dierwold, I'm not sure. I think he might have left Sarensburg.
Yeah, I think he has.
I know,
we'll have to look.
I know Pierre from Rakes, he left, so he's making the Survivor wine, so it's the cow on it.
Oh, yes. Is that what Pierre's doing now? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So I think the guy over Rakes who makes Survivor, if I'm not mistaken, wanted to take the brand on a quality level to a higher notch, so they got Pierre to do it. No, it's fantastic.
So you bought into this beautiful little farm that ended up being Paserene. Was it called Paserene at the time, or did you call it Paserene?
Do you mean the one in Franschhoek or in Tilbach?
In Franschhoek. Your little farm, your little Paserene where your tasting center is, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. So it's yeah, the farm was called Marlot, and then and we decided to call it Paserene just to make everything a little bit
So,
easier to understand.
so let's tell everybody what Paserene means, because I love it. It's sort of like the spirit of free traveling birds, and I love that. I've got swallows at my house. I think I've told you. I've had them
Yeah,
there
yeah.
for 23 years. They come and go every year. And it's one of the reasons that led me to Paserene in the first place, because I love your labels. Tell us about all of that.
Yeah, so with the name, I remember there was a time that I had to kind of decide what I wanted to call the brand, and I spoke a lot to that with Mike Ratcliffe, and then he wanted me just to call it Martin because I think at the time David and Nadia just called it David or whatever, and then it was I said okay, but yeah, I rather want to have it like give it more of a like a sexy name, and so it sounds better, than just Martin.
Well,
So,
Martin's quite sexy.
well, yeah, so I want to. I wouldn't want to call the brand my name. That I must say that I never quite felt like a Martin. It's the strangest thing.
You've
But
never felt like a Martin.
yeah, it's like
Is that
it's I don't know if it's just me, but it's yeah, it's just a little bit of a. It
No,
feels a
you are
little
like a
foreign.
martin. And for everybody else who doesn't know, martin is also a bird. A martin is a type of a swallow, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's how the whole thing started. So okay, I thought like okay, my name is Martin. So they said there's a bird, and then there's the swift, and then there's the swallow, and then there's the passerine. So I basically Googled passerine, and then I looked at the Latin, and I saw the word passeriformis, and that's still a little bit hard on the ear. So then I just decided okay, I'm going to call it passerine, and it stuck. Mike Radcliffe didn't like the name. I saw that on his face, but I kind of stuck with it.
Well, when I first saw it, I looked at it and I thought it's a bit like Kevin Grant called his ataraxia. It sounds like a sleeping tablet. Or let me give you, 5 milligrams of Paserene 3 times a day, and I'm sure you'll be fine in the morning. Do you know what I mean?
I
You
would
sound like a
7
moochie.
750 mils would be better. um,
Yeah.
so the name stuck, and yeah. So in retrospect, I would have, if I thought about it, I would probably call it Paserene. Because now me and my wife went on a marketing trip to England, and we went to this Michelin star restaurant where the wines are served, and all the sommeliers they are Italian, and so they told me what the name really means, and then I said, oh, okay, I should have called
Oh,
it.
what is it? Something comes out of the Kama Sutra or something. What does it mean, really?
Exactly.
I'm trying to make you
exactly
blush, Martin.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah. So so it kind of like they loved it because they can't keep a straight face when they serve the wine. So that's what I found out 10 years after I named the brand. So yeah, but anyway, so the name is set and I love it. So it's uh, so yeah, so
And
it's
then and then what's on the label? Tell everybody what's on the label and who makes the labels, who designs
okay.
them.
So I work with various of artists in my winemaking profession. So I have my stalwarts, and it's Karen Ziervogel. She's a fantastic illustrator. And then we have Lorraine Lewis, and she's more like is like super well known and very well respected, just normal like miniaturist. So she can paint the smallest little details on and yeah on like a £5 coin. So like very very gifted, and
Yes.
Carmen is fantastic with like she's got art down, but she's also got everything on digital, so she can like move stuff around and all that. So.
Yes.
So both of them worked on the Paserene project. So Carmen did the goal with the lady that is sitting for the Chardonnay, and Lorraine did the swallow back in 2012, I think. So she painted that for me, and yeah, so it's stuck. So it's like for Paserene, it's not. It's an authentic brand, so it's something that is standing firmly with his feet in a certain style of wine, but also into with like the art. So like it's something that stands up on a shelf. So it's got more like a very well meaning kind of idea that was stuck in my head, and then it kind of I'm not able to paint, so I have to like outsource that. But they
Well,
decided
your creativity lies in different spaces, but your creativity mixed with the absolutely beautiful creativity that's gone into your labels. I love your labels. I almost feel like we should make a range of them and roll prints of them, numbered prints or something, so that we could hang them in cellars and things. They are such beautiful works of art. And together, as I say, with the work of art that is your wine, they just hang together really, really well. So Mart, tell me now, let's tell everybody what's in the range of Paserene wines as we speak now. What are you making?
So basically, we have the signature range. So that is the Marathon, which is most years it's a Cabernet Sauvignon. Some years it's a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon and Petit Verdot, and that's 100% from Tilbach. So I agree with you. Tilbach makes fantastic Syrah, but the quality of Cabernets or grapes that contain pyrazines that can come from there is incredible. And the reason for that is because of that super cold winters and in the incredibly hot summers. It's fantastic. Like it just eradicate any kind of green aroma in Merlot, Cabernet Franc, Carmenere, and Cabernet Sauvignon. And so I make that wine. So that's kind of like our flagship, although I don't really like to call it that. And then I make the Chardonnay. That's from Elgin. So that's 100% pure Chardonnay, and it's always from Elgin. And then I make a wine called the Union, which is it's more like a Northern Rhone kind of setup. So it's Syrah, and then it's got a little bit of a Mourvèdre and Carignan in that. So so that's more like your like iodine-y kind of tertiary, like saucisse kind of sagey kind of wine. So it's got it's more of like a bouquet wine, where the Marathon is a lot more like singular. And then I make a wine called the Shiner. So that's a different animal altogether. So it's an idea that started with me back in 2010. So I had a barrel at Villafonte of this Syrah that I got from Tony Bond's farm, and I blended that with Merlot, and then that was called the Shiner. So at the time I didn't have money for any labels or anything, so I spoke to my designer friend Rob Tyler. Listen, just make me a stencil, and then I'll take that stencil and I'll put it on a bottle, and I'll spray paint the bottle like they do in Portugal. So we chose on Brad Pitt from Fight Club.
It's a good choice.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, it did so good that it looked too much like Brad Pitt. So we didn't want to get sued. So I used then we changed it to Tom Hardy, and I asked him just mangle his body a little bit so that we can't say it's Tom. So that was the start of the whole thing. And then in the United States, if a wine doesn't have a label on it, then it's called a Shiner. And so then I decided I'm going to call it Shiner. And in this country, if somebody, I guess anywhere else in the world, if somebody punched you, then and you have a blue eye, then that's called a Shiner.
Yes.
So we got this whole like violence and aggression into this wine. And then I said, okay, so now I have that. Why don't I write a crime novel to accompany this wine? So so then I decided, okay, I'm going to write a little chapter, and I'm not a writer or a novelist or whatever. So but I set the scene, and it takes place in a pub called the Akker in Stellenbosch, where one of my best friends, Jonathan Maria, in my mind is an ex private investigator,
Oh.
alcohol, and then somebody hires him to go and find this girl. Um, so it's kind of, at the time I read a lot of Dion Mayer, and so he was kind of like a little bit like Benny, but a little bit more attractive and all that. So
So did you publish this novel?
it's published on my bottle. So I wrote. It's basically a couple of chapters, and we stuck it on the front label, and then so you can take it almost like a sleeve, so you can take that and read it, and then you have the bottle. So that idea stuck. So then something infiltrated my mind. So okay, so why don't I make this like like 10 wines in 10 chapters over 10 years, and then in the end you'll have your
Your book.
your whole book, and you have these 10 wines. So we did the first one, and then that was like a cab-based blend, and then the second one, which is a Sauvignon Blanc Semillon, and then I got Jenny Chris Williams to help me with that chapter. So it gets pretty raunchy and then super violent in this whole flick or book, but it's I didn't want to hold myself back, so it's like, well, why don't I just go full on as creative as I can be? So now you have a wine.
I want to write the final chapter for you.
You can. Well, chapter 4 is coming up, so I don't. If you
Okay, well, it doesn't have to be the final chapter. I'll write chapter 4 for you. But if you want completely politically incorrect and no holds barred and honestly, full frontal poster girls, that's me.
So I want it needs to be as unpolished as you can. So I got.
Okay,
then I
so
decided,
let's do it.
The third chapter I asked Dion Mayer actually to write it, so he agreed, and he wrote the third chapter. So
okay,
you can see the quality of writing from his side goes it increases a lot. So that
I was going to say puts the rest of us to shame. Yes, but what a gorgeous idea to make up a whole thing like that, filled with different people's perspectives on the story. And to say nothing of how gorgeous the wine. I've tasted the Sauvignon Blanc. It's Sauvignon Blanc Semillon blend, hey?
Yes, correct.
That you made. I've tasted that one, and it's delicious, and it's not expensive either. It's lovely.
Yeah. So
in fact, we're having some at lunchtime today. After this interview, Shannon, who helps me and produces most of my stuff here at Solid Gold, it's her birthday today. So we'll say happy birthday to Shannon Kennedy quickly to everybody. And Stephanie's are coming because we're going to put some of your wines into the little Solid Gold online shop. And we're going to have Shina for lunch for Shani's birthday. So while we're talking. So carry on telling me about Shina.
Okay, so the Shiner is the one that you're gonna have now. It's Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon, and it's from Franschhoek. But most of these wines, the Shiner wines, have no appellation on the back label, and it doesn't have a vintage. So they're all Western Cape non-vintage wines, and I prefer them to be like that. So they come from nowhere and they have no place or time. And then I also we make the Elements wines. For Paserene, so that is like a little bit of more of an introduction to the other wines. And on that label, we have a very basic a swing with 2 seats on it. And that idea came to me. I had this picture on my phone when I went on a surfing trip to Indonesia, and I just I saw that on a bar in a place called Kuta, and I took it, and then it sat on my phone for, I think, 3 or 4 years. And then I decided in the end, okay, so I needed something basic and like playful and all that. So we decided to go with that onto the Elements range. So there's currently, there's a Rosé, there's a Chardonnay, a pure Sauvignon Blanc, and a Cabernet, and a Syrah. So that's the baseline wines for us.
And Mart, when you're looking for grapes and things, because your property in Franschhoek is not really where you source all your wines and things from. You go and find vineyards all over the place. Do you sign long-term contracts, or do you go and look for different vineyards every year, or what do you do?
No, so Paserene can only source from 3 areas. So the one is Elgin, and the other one is Franschhoek, and then Tulbach is the other one. So we own another property in Tulbach. It's right next to the Jevel and Vrijgelegen, so it's a big property. It's this 500 hectare farm called the Jevel, and it was owned by a guy called Gayton Bobbitt, who's a Flemish guy. And we bought that property from him in 2017. So now I've planted 2 hectares of Cabernet on it. And then next year we'll plant some Chardonnay and Petit Verdot and Carmenere on our farm. So Paserene becomes almost sovereign now, so that it can look after itself, and it's not so reliant on farmers or third parties, where you'll always have some. You have to have a really good relationship with the farmers to produce whatever you want. And to
you don't bottle a huge amount of wine, do you? I mean, you're not making millions of cases of wine.
No. So we have I think there's about 7,000 max of each wine, 7,000 bottles.
Okay, so it's quite big. I mean, it's quite big enough.
Well, that's best case scenario. So when you work with Mother Nature, like some years it's only 3,000. So I think for this last one, I think from 2020 onwards, like there's about only like 3,000, and then there's 4,000 of the Chardonnay. So very small quantities. But now we kind of gear ourselves to push to about 7,000 of each.
I know you love Cabernet. We spoke about that before. But if we're not talking about Cabernet, what wine do you like making the best? What's your best thing to make?
Well, there's definitely Chardonnay for the whites. I like everything Bordeaux, so Malbec is a big favorite of mine. So it's just like this super generous varietal. So like it's like, I call Malbec the Scarlett Johansson of the wine world, because there's just so much of everything. So it's a
Have you told Scarlett that she's too much of everything?
No, I don't. I love Malbec because it's a fantastic blending partner. It's got a lot of color. It's got a lot of fruit. So I would wish that I have access to such a great source that I can have at least 5% in all my wines.
Okay, that's brilliant.
Yeah, so and then Merlot, Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot especially, they're all arrows in my quiver that I definitely like to shoot with. I respect Tinzo and those varietals, but it's like I haven't walked a road with it, or I don't really understand the whole light of color and all that. So it's it's a varietal that it's a great welcome drink, but after a while I want to step over to the.
You want a Cabernet? You're a real boy. You're a real boy. Yeah. I think. Yeah. If you're not in your cellar and you're not in one of your vineyards, what's your next favorite thing to do?
I like to go surf with my friends. I'm a horrible surfer, but it's nice to sit there in the back line and just talk crap with your friends and just laugh.
Do you surf with Miles Mossop and Duncan Savage and those boys?
Yeah, so I wouldn't call it I surf with them. I fall around or wipe out with them, but they're great surfers. And they're people that grew up at the sea and surfing from 5 years old. I was more the guy that went spearfishing and all of that. Started quite late.
And Mart, do you have how many children have you got?
2. So Ren turned 4 yesterday, and Lyra turned 3 on the 23rd of July.
Oh my goodness! So I was about to say, are any of them wanting to spend the rest of their lives in the cellar, but they might be a little bit tiny to have made that decision.
No,
just
yeah,
yet.
you can definitely see that the interest is there. So like I if I think about it now, I think my daughter would be the winemaker, and my son would be more the guy running the business. It just if I
Well,
have to gauge
that's like a recipe for success, and it's a dream come true for a third generation wine farmer. So let's hope that that's what happens. When am I going to see you in Johannesburg?
I think quite soon. Like I need to speak to Stephanie and then go and fly up and then go and visit some of our accounts there.
Well, I'm seeing Steph, as I said, at lunchtime today, so I'm going to make a plan with Steph. We're going to put something in the diary.
Yeah.
You're going to bring a bottle of the 250-year-old Carmenere and Petit Verdot blend.
Yes.
We're going to get drunk in my cellar one night, and we're going to cook and have some fun. Hey, should we do that?
Yeah.
Or maybe that's a bit politically incorrect. Maybe I shouldn't say we're going to get drunk. That's irresponsible and offensive, so I'm told. So we won't do that.
We're going to bask in the wine. Yeah, that'd be good.
Martin, as ever, you're just gorgeous. I love chatting to you. Your wines are delicious. I'm going to make sure, I'm going to get some pictures of your labels, and with your permission, I'm going to put them on my next newsletter so that people can just see how beautiful they are. We are going to start selling some wine for you and hopefully see you sooner rather than later.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, my darling. Thank you very much for spending time with us.
It's fantastic. Thank you very much.
Another production from Solid Gold Podcasts.